Name is Kalyan Banerji. I have retired since last year after 51 years with UPL. But still, I haven't officially retired, but very much the connectivity remains because I had already been associated with Excel Industries in Bombay. That was the parent industry. And then Rajjubhai and his two other brothers, I think the family wanted the three brothers to start on their own. The second brother was him. He was told, why don't you go to Vapi, the land is there. We have just bought this land. Vapi was a newly coming up estate because Gujarat government wanted to have an industrial estate close to Bombay so that the Gujarati industrialists from Bombay could come and settle over here. So they asked him to come over to a place like Vapi, and it was suggested to me by one of his uncles that I might like to go with him and see that, help him out in the beginning, because I didn't really know much about it. So I asked him, well, you are going, so do you want me to come? He said, of course I want you to come. So there it was. That's how we happened to come over here together. We had no running water in those days. There was a tube well, maybe about 100 meters from the house, and he himself would get up in the morning in his pajamas and would go with a bucket and get the water from the tube well to have a bath. And one bathroom. There used to be other, people, engineers, draftsmen who lived also in an adjoining little apartment. But they all used to come together and have baths and everything in the same bathrooms over here. Do all kinds of, he never really behaved as a boss, really. And I think I've been a part of the household over here, wherever it was. So eating together, and we used to have one bungalow we had bought. We were here all the time. He would go away during weekends or whenever and come back again and stay, keep on coming once or twice during the week to look after the growth of the factory or how the factory was developing. So that kind of thing has gone on. Yeah, when the Vapi Industries Association was started, I was the first one who wrote its constitution, its laws and rules and regulations, because no one here knew anything about it. All the Gujaratis were good business people, but not really very legally oriented into writing things like that. So I did the first time I wrote the constitution. He became the first president of the Vapi Constitution. I used to do, as much as possible work with him. And yes, I did the first bulletin of this thing that we printed was called the Venture. That was what it was. That's what UPL was in those days. One of his comments was that, earlier on he used to say, and I've quoted this often, that I don't know whether UPL will succeed, but if at the end of it all I have 1 rupee in my pocket, I'll consider 1 lakh of rupees in my pocket, I'll consider myself lucky. So that was something that I've often told everybody. I think he made it, his connectivity with everyone was very easily done. He did it without any formalities, treating you as his equals, and always, willing to have fun together and making life, easy to get along with, and treating situations and difficulties as something that we can all work on together. That's all. So he made things much more easy and easy to get along with. So that's why I stayed in a place like Vapi alone, where there were only tall grass and snakes and all over the place. My father came and said, "What are you doing here? There's nothing here." And I said, "Because there's nothing, maybe we can do something. So let's see." That's how it started. So that's where we started off with, and uncertain days. Power used to go often, and we were the first to put up the power in the factory, in the first industrial estate in Vapi. When Morarji Desai first came, we were all waiting at what was then, we had no fencing in the factory, though we had just come in over here, and fencing poles were not available in Vapi. I had to go one day to drive to a place called Bilimora, which is about 40 miles away, and along with a local boy from Vapi. And I was not a driver, I didn't drive in those days. So he drove the car, and we went to buy these poles for fencing our factory in those days. While coming back, it became dark, and suddenly the headlights in the car failed. So there we were, coming 40 miles down the national highway. It was a 2-lane road in those days. It was not the 6-lane road that it is now, where I am sitting on the side holding a torch to show the light. That was the only thing that I had, nothing else. And he tried to drive, a young boy, but very enthusiastic, driving along. Why? Because we were just bought the poles to fence the factory over here. So these are little stories that we remember, when those are from early days. There are hundreds of stories like this. Running the Rajjubhai Shroff University, where I am the president. Way back in, as I said, 71 or 72, 71 it was. And all the other ladies who were pregnant over there in those days would go out of Vapi and go to their respective homes, because Vapi was no place to give birth to over there. There was hardly any facility. There was one Christian missionary hospital run by a lady from Kerala, a Christian missionary. She used to run, but nobody used to go to her. But my wife started going to her during her pregnancy days. She was there in the hospital for a couple of days. And then I used to go and see her daily. But I was not expecting her to give birth on the day that she did. But Mrs. Shroff, Sandra Shroff, she couldn't sleep at night. She was worried what would happen to her. She got up in the middle of the night, left him. He was sleeping, he didn't know where she was going. She took the car herself and went to the hospital, which is about 5 kilometers away from here. And in those days, Vapi in the night was absolutely quiet. It was almost a dangerous place, because it was to be only the smugglers. A lot of smugglers used to be around in those days. It was a much more risky place than it is today. And she went there. She went to the hospital. She saw the birth having taken place. She came back. It was about 4 o'clock in the morning. Told him that, well, Kalyan has got his first child. And then she came, woke me up, and they said, well, better go to your hospital. Your wife is expecting you. So that's certainly something one can remember. I think when I first won the Rotary District Governorship, I think she, more than anybody else, was celebrating over here with fireworks and crackers over here on the road. Everybody asked her what has happened. It says, we have got a Rotary president. Nobody knew much about Rotary in those days, but there it was. So we had won an election. So I'm busy looking after things that we had all started as a Rotary president years ago. Long life, he's changed everybody's lives, unimaginably. And lots of people all over the place, whether they be even government servants in Delhi. So many of these government servants who would not accept to talk to an Indian industrialist, because most Indian industrialists were not having the sincerity and the commitment that he used to have. But here is a young man trying to start something from nothing, working against international companies, Bayer and Hext and all these companies who make red phosphorus, the first product we started out with, they thought he deserves to be helped. So much so that even when some of these government people retired, they came and offered themselves to him, and we have employed many of them over the years in Delhi and other places. So that was a quality he had of attracting people, bringing people to him, because they thought, well, he was the man they wanted to be with, closely associated with. They didn't want to give up the association. I guess that might have been true to some extent with me as well, but it might have been either way, both of, but I think we just stuck around over here.